Okay, it seems like we got everybody in here. A little bit of an unorthodox setup as I'm on a $70 Chromebook and cannot screen record anything. So I'm using my phone to record. But my name is McDowell and my topic is on South Carolina and our drinking laws. South Carolina has always had strict drinking laws, being in the Bible Belt. Even before Prohibition existed, one publicist said Charleston and the backwoods were thirsties, but preachers not in the Bible Belt weren't. Charleston and those hillbillies in the middle of nowhere, they wanted to drink, but people in Columbia and Greenville, the very religious people, wanted to keep appearance, so they wanted to drink, but they didn't want anyone to know about it. And that's why South Carolina started getting stricter laws. And with our current governor, McMaster, who's a very big Republican and very big on religion, these laws might not be able to go anywhere. But we need to start persuading him to change. The first law that I want to talk about is how late our bars stay open to. I originally went to school in Florida, and we would have some bars and clubs that would stay open until 4 a.m. And there are some bars and clubs in Miami that stay open all night. Now, when people hear this, they think, oh, everyone's going to be getting way too drunk. If you're drinking that much, it's going to be super unhealthy and everyone's just going to be blacked out and it won't be a good thing. And it'll destroy the community around those bars and clubs. Studies actually found that that is not true. Because of the longer period you spend drinking, you're going to be drinking less at one time and you're going to space it out, drink some more water, probably eat some food, and end up sobering up a lot more than if the bar closed at 2 a.m. Rich Kirby did a study of countries in Europe where all of their bars and clubs can stay open later and found out that there are way less drunk driving incidents, fatal and non-fatal, because when you don't have that set 2 a.m. time zone, you have it later, people are going to settle down around 3, 4 a.m. and start sobering up and drive home, rather than at 2 a.m. you're getting kicked out of Breakers or Jake's. The next law that I want to discuss is how I believe the drinking age should be lowered. I believe that the drinking age should be lowered to 18. At 18, you can go and you can die for your country, you can vote, you can do all that, but you can't drink a beer. And I'm even up for maybe not allowing them to drink liquor, but I think they should be allowed to go out and buy a case of beer. It teaches kids how to handle their alcohol properly. I know when I was 18, I was sneaking around going to my friends' houses when their parents weren't home, and we would drink as much as we could because we were unsupervised. But if it's allowed and you can go to bars, you have bartenders and bouncers who are looking after these kids, making sure they're not getting too drunk. This will also put kids in situations where they have to make grown-up decisions, and they will learn from their consequences in a safer environment at a bar or at a restaurant than if they're at a house party and someone's like, hey, let's go drive to McDonald's at 3 in the morning. And a study done by the University of Indiana found when children start drinking younger, they have way less fatal incidents with alcohol from drink driving or overconsumption during the night. Because everyone knows that one friend in high school who had to get their stomach pumped one too many times because they were left unsupervised. And that's why I believe that drinking while supervised at the age of 18 should be the new law. The final law that I would like to discuss is how we cannot sell liquor on Sundays in the state of South Carolina. I believe this law is extremely outdated because, well, we can buy liquor at restaurants. Why can we not buy it at a liquor store? This law is extremely outdated, and one of the main reasons is because we're in the Bible Belt. Being from the Bible Belt my entire life, this is what I've grown up with. My friends from Florence, they can't even buy beer on Sundays. But we need to be more progressive in this state. We are still very set in our ways, and like Anthony's talk about marijuana, I don't see these laws changing. If we can't change these laws, we can't change bigger laws. Whether that's about equality between men and women, equality between races. If we're still not letting people smoke weed or drink on Sundays, we're not going to be able to move forward as a state. The main person who can get this done is Governor Henry McMaster. McMaster is actually a family friend of mine. I've met him plenty of times, and he is exactly what you think he is. He's an old white man from South Carolina who wants everything to stay the exact same as it was when he was growing up. I think we either need to start convincing him to change, or we need to start looking for a new replacement. And we will not be able to move forward as a state with these laws or any other progressive laws if we still have Governor McMaster not willing to change his ways. But I believe that with the right information, the right research, and if we're able to start getting some more younger people around him, start talking to him, then he'll be willing to change his mind about some of his ideas or preferences, and as a state we can move forward. And that's something our state needs, especially we see it in our education levels and everything. We are known as a dumb state, and if we don't become more progressive, we are going to continue with that trend. All right, thank you. Does anybody have any questions or any discussion?
I will start, and I don't know if you like looked into this just because I know it doesn't have to do with the state, but I know over in like Europe and just honestly a lot of other countries, it is common, and I always hear with like international students how the drinking ages are always different, and it's always lower. And I didn't know if you read anything else about it because I know whenever I talk to them, a lot of them they're almost safer with it by college now because like they were introduced to it at a younger age where but it was allowed, so it was you're always going to have the dumb stuff that happens in high school, but they were able to do it more safely just because it was common and I guess created like regulated. But by the time they're in college and everything, they have figured out and they've handled it well, just and they don't even maybe like enjoy getting drunk as much as because they were getting like drinking at the younger age. And so I didn't know if you looked into that or other states in the United States that have considered lowering the drinking age, because I agree with that as well.
Yeah, so I actually was in Europe this year and was at a club super late. I didn't know how to handle myself, so I was really drunk. And it was in Italy where the drinking age is really low. I'm 22 years old, and it was 17-year-old kids at the club taking care of me. So that's kind of when I realized that even though like I'm supposed to be the adult, like I had no clue. I'd never been in that situation before. These kids had been in that situation. They took me out of the club, like took me to their favorite restaurant, like that was like their late night spot, like their version of Waffle House. And
Mm-hmm.
they were extremely helpful, and I realized because they have that experience, like we should give younger kids more freedom with this. Because
Mm-hmm.
my parents were very relaxed about me drinking. Their rule was just no drinking and driving, and that was most of my like friends' parents' rules. So we learned how to drink at houses safely, and normally parents were there. But once we got older and went to college, I mean, my first weekend, even during COVID, when we had to be out by midnight, like I was stumbling home in a pile of vomit because I think we should learn at a younger age.
Yeah, I agree, and I think it's just the being like of the high school age and just knowing that you're not supposed to be doing something, or like you're not technically allowed to buy alcohol under the age of 21, but everyone knows like if a like they're gonna continue to get it somehow, whether it's from some kids' parents or just somehow if they've always found a way to still get it. Which, and I almost think that makes them want to is more because once you know that you're able to do it, like once I turned 21, it's funny. Like I feel like it's not as like so much of like a thrill to be able to get it because you know you're allowed to enough age. So I feel like that does go along with what you were saying and how in other countries it's not necessarily normalized, but just that type of environment of drinking and the bars and everything, it isn't like restricted from people, and so they get used, not necessarily used to it early, but they've become normalized with it where they don't go crazy with it as much.
Yeah, like it was what my cousin told me like the week before I turned 21. He said no beer will ever taste this good because you get the thrill when you're breaking the rules, especially as a high schooler. And like you get out of school, I went to a Catholic school where we weren't allowed to break rules. So the second we got out of school on Friday and Saturday, we wanted to break as many rules as possible. And if beer and like, I'm not saying kids like 18 should be drinking hard liquor, but if beer and wine were legal, we probably would have sipped on it more instead of, shotgunning it and like doing dumb stuff like playing beer ball and whatnot. Any other questions?
Building off what you said about not making liquor legal to 18, is that like what you're proposing, like how they do it in Europe, where they make beer legal at a younger age and then they introduce like liquor at when they're like 18 or something? It's like legal for beer at like 16. Is that what you're
Yeah,
like?
so I would say if we were to, it would be you can get at 18 until you're 21, you can get beer and wine at restaurants and bars, and you can buy it at gas stations. But once you're 21, you can then buy liquor wherever. And once you're 21, regular drinking laws apply. But I don't think between the ages of 18 to 21, they need to be drinking hard liquor because we all know in high school when we drank hard liquor, it never went well.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think that's like modeling how a lot of European countries do it, and I feel like if we were to introduce that, it would be very beneficial because kids would be used to drinking by the time they're older.
Yeah, and one thing that when I was doing, because I did like a 9 day study abroad in Italy, and we were talking about wine and whatnot. Our professor said how they will drink throughout the day, but they don't drink to get drunk, and how it's only in America that we really have that blackout culture. And I think with changing that drinking age to younger, we'll get rid of that culture.
To mention that I've heard that before too, because with tequila shots and stuff, I have a couple like Hispanic friends and their parents and stuff just laugh at like in America how like the tequila shots they don't take it all at once, they just
Yeah,
sip it or everything, and they just think it's hilarious how all of us are used to, and we don't we won't just like drink just casually most of the
yeah,
time, like on the weekends. It's yeah.
yeah. So, all right. Anything else? All right. That's all